2, 3, 4.
Hey everybody, welcome to the relaunch of the new episodes of Put It Together. I apologize for some of the technical difficulties. It's been a while since I've been in the air, but it's really great to be back. I'm going to give you a heads up because, every new show has to start with some story. I was in Kansas this week. I flew in. I was supposed to fly in yesterday, but weather would it be in the universe, because it likes to play jokes on me, caused some weather problems on the way back. So I was supposed to land in Denver and it didn't happen. So they flew me to Vegas, and then there was a storm, so we couldn't fly out. And then I didn't miss just one plane. I missed 2 planes coming out of Vegas. While I was waiting on one line, one left. And then when I went to the other line, the other one left. So I stayed in Vegas. Didn't gamble. The treat of the night was having a steak at Denny's at 10:30 at night with a big batch of French fries. So if you're in Vegas and you happen to be at the Holiday Inn on, I think, Riviera or something like that, the Denny's right there, go check it out. They have one of the best steaks for $25. So check it out. But we're back, and I got home just in time to get set up. As you can probably tell, where is it? Right there. There's a new logo. We have a new logo. We modernized a little bit. We're changing the logo to Put It Together. You probably noticed the new colors. Let me show you the new colors for Put It Together. Where is the... There we go. We have new color formats. We're turning them to the aquas and the yellows, and just making some changes. I want to update now that we're coming back. You folks, for all of you who have been following the show since it was a podcast back in 2012, you remember that in 2020 during the lockdown, we went from podcast to live stream, and the shows are live every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern. And the reason I like to do them live is so that you folks watching at home can ask questions. So if you enjoy and know the guests, follow my guests, you can ask them questions that maybe sometimes you don't get a chance to. But don't worry, if you're not watching this live, you can watch it on replay. It's being saved on YouTube and LinkedIn. For those of you who don't know, Facebook doesn't save them for a long time anymore. But go to the YouTube page at Little Mexican Productions. You can find them there. So I'll put all of the notes down at the bottom. We'll be making comments. We'll be chatting. What would you like to hear about? I'm going to bring in some more of my friends who are advocates in different health fields. I'm going to bring coaches like today. For those of you that know about my acting career, I'm going to try and bring some of my actor friends, some of my comedian friends, people in advocacy, people in coaching. For those of you that know about my book, Little Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game, I'm going to try and bring some authors to the show too, to talk about the process. Not necessarily, and for those of you that have been following me for a while, it's not so much about the product. It's about how we got to create the product, the story behind the story that sometimes you don't get to hear. So this is me right now on 3 cups of coffee. So I'm very caffeinated. I'm ready to go for the show. So tune in. Listen, ask some questions, make some comments, and I'll make sure that my guest gets them for you. Today, I am really excited for my very first guest of the launch. We're going to talk a little bit about how we met, but let me give you a little behind the scenes of who she is. deJoly LaBrier is a transformational writing coach, author of 4 published books, and a speaker who has spent more than 2 decades sharing messages of healing, hope, and transformation at conferences, universities, healing centers, and churches. Her own journey through extreme trauma profoundly shaped the work she does today. Rather than asking people to repeatedly revisit or relive painful experiences, deJoly believes there is another way forward. Through transformational writing and reflective practices, she helps women gain clarity about the emotional wounds they carry, reconnect with their inner voice, and begin the journey back to themselves, safely, gently, and at their own pace. Her work is grounded in a simple but powerful belief. You can heal without reliving your trauma. Big. Today, deJoly is especially passionate about working with women entrepreneurs and women seeking deeper personal growth. She helps them recognize the stories, beliefs, and emotional patterns that may be keeping them stuck so they can develop greater self-trust, clarity, and freedom to create a life that feels authentically their own. Her 4 books reflect the evolution of her own journey and the wisdom she has gathered along the way. Diary of Survivor and Art and Poetry, All Together Now, a multiple story of hope and healing. What Happens to You, a guidebook for people seeking hope, healing, and lasting transformation. And Greeting the Day, Wisdom from My Gardens. From telling her stories of survival to offering reflections on healing, transformation, and the wisdom found in everyday life, deJoly's work invites people to discover that their past does not have to dictate their future. I love that. After more than 2 decades of speaking about healing from extreme trauma, her message has become both simple and profound. You are more than what happened to you, and it is never too late to reclaim your voice, heal your wounds, and live the joyful and abundant life you deserve. I'm so excited for this conversation. Let me bring my friend deJoly on the air. Hello, deJoly.
Hello, Daniel.
How are you?
So good to be here. I'm so glad to be the first one in your launch. I'm just so proud of you and proud of the work that you do, and I'm just thrilled to be here.
Thank you. And we have our first comment, so maybe just put the comment on there. Congratulations on the new season, Daniel. Thank you very much. This interview with deJoly LaBrier, I feel so international when I say your name, will be amazing. She is a true light in the world. She is a true light in the world. And thank you, Lorna, for joining us on the first episode back. For everybody who knows about the show, the tradition is, how do I meet my guests? How do I know them? We owe a thanks. I don't know if she's probably not watching, but I'll send her the clip. Our friend Grace introduced us. And how do you know Grace?
I met Grace here in this neighborhood that I live in, and we became friends and started hanging out. And she mentioned you, and I said, I wouldn't mind meeting that guy because he sounds like fun. And so I contacted you, you contacted me back, and we set it up. And I'm just thrilled that we've now been talking to each other for over a year.
Right. And one of the coolest things that happened was the day we met, we just bonded and connected. And we said, let's make this a regular thing.
Yeah.
And we realized that I don't know if we mentioned or we talked about it, but I know it ran through my head that a lot of folks meet and connect and say, let's stay in touch. But there's never a plan. There's never a follow-up.
That's right.
We were not going to fall trap to that.
That's right. I'm one of those people. In fact, Lorna Gale, who just made that comment, is one of those people I made contact with, and we have every 2 weeks we get together.
So Lorna knows what we do.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So every 2 weeks we meet up. And sometimes we have to adjust the schedule because we both get busy. But for all of you out there watching right now, before we even start the show, I'm going to give you this little suggestion. When you meet somebody that you connect with, and you connect in that mental, physical, and spiritual And I don't mean physical that way, people. Calm down. I mean that there was like this, like there was an energy that was like, oh, I'm getting goosebumps when I talk to you. When you meet folks like that, wherever it is, whether it's online, at a conference, on the train, on a plane, and you say, we should stay in touch, follow through. Follow through, because you never know where it's going to lead and what you're going to learn from that person. So with that said, I want folks to know a little bit more about you the way that I've gotten to know you. So deJoly, tell us how you put it together.
Well, that's a long story, and you can tell by this that I've been around a while. But I started out this journey because I had experienced extreme trauma in my childhood, and did not know that I was part of a cult at that time. Did not know it, and it was kind of like I was just trying to survive day to day, and I didn't realize nighttime was a big deal. Um, and so I was just basically, I had so many blanks in my memory and all of that, that I went to a therapist and I said, I really need to be able to connect with my husband because he doesn't really understand what's going on, and I really need to tell somebody. And anyway, from that point forward, I ended up being in therapy and hospitalized and the whole thing, just to not get over, but deal with what was happening with me, because the reflection of the trauma created so many personalities in me that my brain fractured. So I just had to deal with what they were trying to tell me about what happened to them so that I could heal. And then I just went forward. I just put one foot in front of the other and stayed consistent with doing the work. And as I went forward, I started speaking publicly about healing. I'm a writer, so I wrote and ended up with these 4 books over the years. And so I went to 20 years, or actually more than 20 years, of just speaking about healing from trauma. And I don't really, I spent so many years talking about the actual events and all of that and healing from that I don't really talk about it much anymore as far as the specifics, but I talk about it in terms of you can heal. If I can heal, you can heal. And I don't mean that in a, if I can do it, you can do it kind of thing. But it's more or less, if you're consistent and you're persistent, you can do things that you didn't think you could. If you put your feet one in front of the other and then just pray that you can get through the next moment, you can, and you'll be surprised about those mini steps, those micro steps lead to a full, complete, I shouldn't say complete, but full life of healing and joy. And I'm just so excited to be alive now, because there were times when I didn't think I would be. In fact, when I was 6, I couldn't imagine getting to 16, let alone 77.
Right.
So that's where I went.
Cool.
Ask me anything.
And before we continue, we get in the comments. deJoly, I love that you're getting to speak today, dear friend, and share about your story and the incredible impact you are having in the lives of women around the world. Love you. And she follows up with, I love that you support people in healing without needing to relive the trauma. Yes, and we're going to talk more about that in just a second, Laura. But I wanted to go back, because we mentioned your books and you mentioned you're a writer in your intro. Writing, a writer in general is very personal, because whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction, you're writing from within you.
Right.
When you're writing about personal trauma and how you healed, that's not only personal, that's vulnerable. That is, you're exposing everything. And we know we're living in a world of social media. The moment you put anything out, it becomes of the public. It is no longer yours.
That's right.
How did you feel? I'm not going to say while writing the book. How did you feel after that was published and out for people to read and people to know you that intimately?
A little scared. I have to admit, there were moments when I thought, oh, nobody's going to believe this. And I'm only telling a fraction of the story, right? So I was like, nobody's going to believe this. But fortunately, before I started writing about that, I had been a reporter on a newspaper, and I had two columns, two different women's magazines that I had been writing for. So I knew how to write. And when I went to my first conference as a participant, every one of us were encouraged to write our stories. And I was emphasized the importance of teaching those who are treating people with mental disorders. I don't call them disorders. It was really orderly to me, but, but, when you're dealing with that kind of mental impairment, so to speak, there aren't any. Back when I started telling my story, nobody really knew how to deal with it, because it hadn't been a thing. When Sybil came out and I'm Eve came out, those are two famous multiples who came out. They got all kinds of backlash and people saying, oh, that can't be possible. But our brain is an unbelievable mechanism. It can change history, it can change science, it can change our lives. And for me, my brain was able to compartmentalize the trauma so that I was able to get through it. And in those compartments, they each became individual pieces of me. So I came out, I was a little scared about writing it. And the first one was basically a compilation of my alter personalities, drawing and writing. And I put them all together and I said, okay, it's done, kind of like that. It's done. And then I got interviewed by Fox News down in Tampa, Florida, with the advent of my second book, All Together Now, a multiple story of hope and healing. And it was basically piece by piece in little vignettes of how I healed. And, at the end of each paragraph or each chapter, I would put an affirmation so that people knew I was okay, that I wasn't still that person. I was now complete and whole, and I was fine, you know, because a lot of times when people read other people's trauma, they almost always take it on, or they feel really sad for that person. And I understand the empathy, but I didn't want people to really get stuck in it. And I know that so therefore, right as soon as that came out, I was interviewed on TV about it. And I did get some backlash about it. But, I said to myself, if they really wanted to get me, the people who were, in the cult, they would have to come after me as a public figure, because now I'm known. And I made sure everyone knew I wasn't suicidal, and I was living a good life. And if I found me not in the good condition, it was not me who did it. So they need to do an investigation. So anyway, I made sure about my safety. And I encouraged other people to write their stories so that the therapists out there, the doctors, could actually treat in the healing process. But what I found was that they wanted us all to relive it all, go back and relive it. And for me, I did, and it was traumatic, but my therapist also was really brilliant. And she said, if you can make it through the actual happening, you can make it through the remembering. So that's what happened for me. I was able to get through the remembering, and then decided to write about it. How did that happen? How does a brain work that can compartmentalize all this trauma? Because we have no concept of that being able to be done, but it happens all the time. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like a person doesn't remember how they ended up in a hospital bed. They remember driving, and then they remember being in the hospital. And what happened in between, they have no idea about. Over a period of time, it comes back. They rolled the car, they slid on the ice or the rain or whatever. They rolled the car, they ended up unconscious and in the hospital. And so That's the kind of amnesia that happens between different trauma events, right? So I compartmentalized all these pieces and was able to get through it by persistence and deep listening. I listened to my parts tell their stories, and I think it's important, even if you're not multiple. I'm not multiple anymore, but even if you're not multiple, it's important to tell your story, because people come behind you and they don't think they can make it. But if they hear your story or they see you or they read your story, they can say, oh, if she made it, maybe I can. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's my goal, is to help women come back to themselves, understand the trauma that they've been through, not have to live through it, because you can get to the point of fact and story. And what happens is we have an incident and we immediately wrap a story around it. Like somebody said they were going to call me back and they didn't. My story immediately is, she doesn't like me. I did something wrong. Oh, I'm horrible. Oh my God. You know, we make a story around it. So if we can separate the incident from the story, then we can heal. We don't have to go back and be mush, mush, mush on that story, you know? So, yeah.
That's very interesting. So there's a couple of things that you mentioned. Let me go back to when you mentioned the personality part and having the personalities. And you mentioned the two movies that were very representative of that extreme of having the personalities. But I believe there's the other extreme, the survival, that also is part of our survival. That it's not so separate. It's us, but it's different parts of us. And for those of you watching, I'll give you a quick example. Growing up, I was molested as a kid. I was abused as a teen. Then I lived through my HIV, lived through my cancer, lived through my addictions. And every one of those has a place in my life. And I have conversations with each one of them to make sure that everybody's cool. Like, hey, we're about to head out, and I was diagnosed with agoraphobia. So before we leave, I have to make sure that they're all okay before we travel. It's like packing cats and making sure that everybody's cool. Yep. But it's not to that extreme of the movies that we know of.
Right.
But yet most of us have that, but we don't know it, or we don't know how to deal with it, and we think it's all anxiety and stress. Does that make sense?
Yep, I do. I totally agree with you. What I understand, though, is that it's like a diamond. A diamond has different facets, right? And they're separated by very clear walls, right? With a multiple, those walls are solid. You can't see through them. So this one doesn't know about this one. In a diamond, they can all see each other. You know, they're all brilliant and white and clear. But in a multiple's mind, the compartmentalizing is a very solid wall between parts. And so the point is, there's always someone in charge. And that I like that. The person in charge, or the board of trustees, which might be in charge, talks to each of the parts and helps them get through the trauma of it, right? And so I had that, and I was able to bring them out and allow them to have their time. And some I gave different jobs to, and sometimes they just kind of moved back behind me and didn't become a part of my life anymore. You know, I remember them. I have their writings. I have some of their drawings, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't live in that story anymore. And that's what's the best part of it.
We have a comment that says, the diamond, that makes so much sense. Yes. And I was going to bring that up because we morph and we change. I always tell people, like, who I was when I was 13 years old, before I was molested, who I was at 17, 18 when I started to become an adult. That was a different version of me. And then I'm 55 now, obviously, after all these years. Even though I have those memories, I'm not that same person.
Mm-hmm.
But when I treat myself like that person, I fall into victimhood.
Yep.
And then, like you said, the story, I immediately, it's like a nice little blanket. Let me wrap myself in the blanket so that I feel like a victim, and poor me.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't like living in the poor me. That's like not a good space
Yeah,
to
I
be.
don't either. But that's
Um,
why at the end of each of the chapters in All Together Now, I put an affirmation because I don't live in my victimhood. I mean, at one point I felt victimized, and somehow victimized doesn't equal victim to me, to me personally. But somebody did something to me and victimized me, did something bad to me, whatever. And then I took it on as like, why did they do that? Why, and what I realized too, and this is a caveat to that, sometimes there's no answer. Sometimes you can't figure out, and they won't give an answer as to why they're doing a particular thing. So we can't always get clarity. Yes, victimized doesn't always equal victim. So, you get clarity about what happened in your own self. You can't ask someone else to give you clarity. And that's one thing that I really want to emphasize is that this is an inside job. I am the product of all those things that happened to me and my choice to be consistent in my healing, because after a while, nobody knew how to deal with it again because my therapist died after 5 years and I was on my own. So I had to be very creative about getting the story from within me out, which thus the writing. And, I'm still a writer. I still write for my local paper. And I teach workshops on journaling and that kind of thing. And so I think that's another way to continue healing is to be actively putting it out there, because if you keep it inside, you know what happens? You become a raisin. You just go down into yourself and you're there. And you are, like you said, you become the victim again when you start talking about, I don't talk about that because it's like it's an old, I can refer to it. Absolutely. I can refer to it as something that happened to me. I'm not denying that it happened to me, but I'm not living in it now.
so now that we opened the door about the work that you do in the community, um, again, talking about vulnerability and putting yourself out there. I mean, this is not like you're teaching somebody to paint or like I'm going to teach you to make clay pots. This
Mhm.
is like we're going to go hands on, full deep into you and
Yes,
discover. But in order, like anything, in order for you to show me how to go inside of me, you have to do it first. So you can,
that's right.
how can you tell us a little bit about that conversation you had with yourself and you said, okay, we're going to do a workshop. Are you ready?
Well, I don't have to talk to all my parts anymore because I am one, but I also know that because of the work that I've done, I'm very confident nobody else could tell my story but me. You know, when I first wrote that book, I was like, I had promised my therapist that I would write a book and honor her, so I was like, I'm going to write this book, but I don't have any credentials after my name to prove that I'm, smart enough to write this book. And somebody said, you lived it, deJoly. You don't have to have credentials. You just have to write what it was like. And so, boy, I lost the train of thought on that. What was your question again? Because I was thinking about my therapist. Yeah, losing
Yeah.
losing that guidance. But she's the one who taught me the importance of what I was writing, because I was writing before I met her. And when I got to journaling with my alters and having them write, um, I had no idea that it would go even further. So what she did was encourage me, and even wrote in my journals questions for them, to inspire the healing process. So I was very, very happy that she helped me do that. And then I just took it from there. I was like, yeah, this is going to work because I'm going to get this. I'm going to get them to talk. I'm going to get all of them out there and help them get through their trauma, and, you know, show them that I love them. That, a lot of times people who have different mental disabilities, or not, I don't even like to call them disabilities, but they're differently minded, right? And so they think of it in a bad term. They think it's bad. But for me, it's like, no, you don't think of it that way. Think of it as an opportunity to go deeper into yourself and find out why you're that way, yes, but also how to treat it in a way that it comes out in a positive aspect of your life, not just the negative, which is what we were talking about, staying in the negative. And yes, now I get it. Now I remember what you said about vulnerability. Yes, vulnerability. I started doing workshops several years ago, which I refer to it
Portrait
rather
rather than relive it.
actually. Yes, that's absolutely true. Um, I started doing workshops, and I did realize that I was doing workshops on things that meant a lot to me, but I had not a barrier, but I had dealt with it enough that it wasn't an emotional trigger for me to do it, right? And that's what I encourage when people are journaling, is that when you deal with it and you've gotten that healing, the feeling of relief, not having to do it again, not having to talk about it again, because what we do is we overhash. We talk about it all the time internally, even if we don't talk to anybody else about it. We're talking about it internally. But once you get that clarity and that understanding of what happened and why and how it has affected your life, and then talk to yourself about what it would be like not to have that, stay in that feeling of not having that negative feeling, but having a positive feeling. I don't even want to call it positive, but not negative doesn't necessarily mean positive, just means different. Am I getting you?
I no, it never clicks until somebody else says it. Like not having a negative feeling doesn't necessarily mean it's positive. It's just a feeling. Like it, and if we look at feelings as just feelings, emotions, memories, if we just think of them as this general thing instead of giving them a good or a bad, it takes away that
Judgment.
and that heaviness that
Yep. Because what we do is we judge ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves. It's horrible. It's like we judge ourselves. Like I was judging myself not smart enough to write this book or to present it out there, because who would read it if I didn't have a PhD after my name, right? I don't know a PhD that knows how to deal with this. So I'm just saying we attribute horrible things to ourselves when in fact they're not horrible. But having the ability to see that and then put it over here and say, what does it feel like not to have that? It doesn't mean that this has now become positive roses and ice cream. It's just over here. I don't feel that. I don't feel that way. And what would that be like? I'd be able to walk down the street and appreciate the trees and the birds and the smells of the water. I'd be free to go somewhere that I haven't ever been before, and all kinds of things which are different from, they're not positive, quote positive. You haven't turned this thing into positive, but you've changed it so that this is what you're now able to see and feel for your life.
there's you're bringing up all these for everybody watching. This is sometimes the way our conversations go every 2 weeks. Like every 2 weeks, like there's a little bit of like gossip and a little bit of like banter, but most of the times we get into some really interesting conversations. So if you have any questions or any comments, please post them and I will share them. There is, as you're talking about the remembering and reliving and not just bringing back the memory, not the whole feeling of it. I feel like when I was younger, and this is probably some part of why I drank and did drugs, was that I felt that if I wasn't reliving those hard moments, plus I gave those hard moments such value that I blamed them, and I both blamed them and praised them for my addiction. They were the reason why I drank and did drugs, because I went through all this. If you knew my life.
That's
and, and then somehow, when I went to rehab and they took away that value of it, it's like they unplugged it.
mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, the Christmas lights were off. And I'm like, what do I do now? And they're like, yeah, you can't rely on that to ruin your life anymore. What are you going to do? Some part of me had a little issue. I felt like I was betraying the part of me that suffered. Like
Mm-hmm.
me having a great life meant that I wasn't valuing everything that I went through. And even today, I was sometimes when people ask, how are you doing? I want to say, I'm doing great. But I dummy down my life and say, I'm okay. I don't know
Mm.
if it's for other people or is it for the other versions of me that hold on to that stuff. Does that make sense? Like as we're talking, I'm like, who am I dummying down my life for? Like I
Yeah,
shouldn't have to do it for anybody.
that's right. That's right. And we do that. We do that. I used to say when people would say, "How are you doing?" I wanted to say my internal voice was, "Pull up a chair and I'll tell you." you know, but I knew that they didn't want to hear it. I knew they didn't want to didn't care about that long victimhood, blah blah blah. And I'm very, very grateful that I didn't say that, because what happened was my life progressed in such a positive, loving way toward people that care about me, and I'm not victimized. I'm not living in my victimhood. And so to me, it's like every piece of what happened to me from every little situation, all the way through, I am a good person. I am healed. I'm a good person. I'm still in the process of healing lots of other things, because we have everyday life. We don't understand in essence the true scope of how we're affected, how we are brainwashed or traumatized without calling it with a big T. It could be just that you weren't promoted because you're a female, or it could be that the nurse didn't want to come in and take care of you because you were gay, that kind of thing. Right. So, and you knew that. So internally, these things, but you don't want to say it out loud because, it might hurt somebody's feelings. But yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. We I mean, definitely an hour is not enough. So we're at some point we're gonna have to bring you back on the show so we can talk more.
I'd be happy to
I
come back.
do want to touch on one thing because you haven't mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it without you saying it. Can you tell us why the tiaras?
Oh, the tiara. Yes. I was walking through Walmart one day. It's with a friend who, we were just chatting, and then another friend came by and she said, "Oh, deJoly, you look great." And I'm like, "Ew," you know. That was before I got over myself, But at that time, I was like, "Oh God, you got poor taste," But I was like, "Oh, thank you." No, I said, "Oh, I'm having a bad hair day or whatever." I can't remember what it was, but my friend that was with me said, "Don't you ever do that again." And pretty soon, and a tiara appeared. She bought me a tiara and said, "This is for you, to honor you." And I thought, that's a really good point. So what happened is, over the course of years, I've collected. I'm called the tiara lady around here. Yes,
Tiara
um,
lady.
because I wear it everywhere. This is one of maybe 20 that I have. But I have them for different holidays, and because I feel that we should all honor ourselves because we don't get enough of it from other people. And I think part of that is how I've become basically confident in myself, that I can say, when this is squeezing my head, I remember, oh yeah, deJoly, honor yourself. You honor your boundaries, honor who you are, what you've been through, because mostly women don't get that. We don't get the honor of, man, you've been a mother for 20 years. You've got 7 children, or even one is enough to cause some kind of honor. I made it through today, that kind of thing. But, I also believe that once you take a roll out of bed and you put your feet on the floor, there's a point of honoring yourself. Like, I made it. I made it through the night, and I made it to the step here on the carpet, and then I'm going to get up. And if you walk to the kitchen and you make your coffee, you really need to honor the fact that you did that. Because what we do is we just say, oh, that's just part of my everyday. But there are a lot of people who can't get there. They're so depressed, they stay in bed, and they never get out of bed. And, their body crimples, or how is that a word? Crumples. Who knows? We'll make a word, right? and so, but we need to honor ourselves. So what I've done is I've created, and I kept going with the tiara. I wear it everywhere I go, every day. I even wear it around the house sometimes, especially when I'm vacuuming and cleaning and stuff like that.
I think the first time I met you, you had the tiara, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And it took me a second. I was like, she's wearing a tiara. Like, that's like, how cool is that?
I did a video on Instagram, and well, it's also on YouTube and TikTok, but about the tiara. So anybody that wants to check it out, I'm on all three platforms, and that's one of them that I did.
So for anybody out there watching, you don't have to wear a tiara, but what is your tiara? Like, I started pulling out my t-shirts. For anybody who's known the show for a long time, I have a collection of t-shirts. I probably have about 400 t-shirts, but I don't wear them. I tend to keep them safe. I don't want anybody to see, if you see them, they're going to disintegrate or something. I don't know, but I've started to wear them now. Like, I wore them a couple of years ago. I did a whole year of a series on the National Day, and I wore a different t-shirt. 365 t-shirts were worn during this year, which is most of my t-shirts. And people were like, you never wear them out. I'm like, oh no, those are my t-shirts.
These are my t-shirts.
Yeah, but now I'm starting to pull them out, and people I wore a little. If anybody remembers that old children's book about the little worm that ate too much, always hungry, I wore that on the flight back. And people kept stopping me and saying, oh, I have that book. I remember that book. That's a cool t-shirt. And that's my tiara now. So I use that.
Well, I had a person who said, enlightening, inspiring, and uplifting. Thank you, Lorna. I had a friend not a friend, but a person on Instagram when I did that tiara one. And she was telling me about a rock, and that she had rubbed it so hard it got shiny as part of her reminder that she mattered, right? And then she lost the rock. So the question was, if I gave you a box with everything in it that you'd lost in life, what would you look for first? And she said that rock. And through the conversation, I found out that it was her way of reminding herself that she mattered. And I think we all matter. Our stories matter,
I am putting on the chat, and I'll bring it up for you folks to see. If you want to follow deJoly, because she has an awesome Instagram series, check her out here at deJoly LaBrier. And don't write it the way that I'm saying it, because you will never find her. So make sure that you follow the writing right there. But we are getting close to the 15-minute mark. I want to invite anybody who's watching to please ask any questions. We're talking about transformational writing. We're talking about letting go of trauma. We're talking about overcoming the memories and becoming you. We're talking about tiaras and showing off yourself. So if you have any questions on deJoly's work, please make comments or ask a question. We still have 15 more minutes. But this is the time of the show where I usually ask my guest, deJoly, if you have any words of wisdoms to share with the audience.
Well, the first one is, you're not your past. I mean, your past doesn't have to determine who you are today. You don't have to keep reliving the past. And to know that you are of value no matter what. Don't underestimate the power of your presence is one of the things I say. Because you are powerful just by being, and you're your goodness comes through every moment of every day. Your energy is what affects other people. And so don't ever underestimate the power of your presence. And know that you don't have to relive your past in order to heal it. So over the course of years, I guess, as far as wisdom goes, there's a real need to understand that this healing process is an inside job. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can all of a sudden say, "Oh, you're healed." No, because you know yourself well enough to know whether you are or not. And part of journaling, which is what I teach, is the idea of the internal reflection of how did I get here. I always have in my journaling class. I actually have a free in-person journaling session at the library once a month, and I always have them start out by putting the words who, what, where, when, why, and how at the top. Be a journalist. Ask yourself questions. Be curious about yourself. Not just not just go back into the victimhood, not just, well, they did this to me. And I like what you said about, you used it as your excuse for being high and being drunk, right? And we often do that. I could have said I couldn't, like I could have said I can't do anything in life because I was traumatized as a child. But I said no. I said, no, I'm not going to live this way the rest of my life. And I didn't even know I was multiple. I thought everybody was the way I was, and was very shocked, by the way, that when I was told that, no, I don't have that. I don't know why you do, but I know I don't. So anyway, I know that you can heal. You can heal.
Yep.
And it also takes some determination. Surrounding yourself with people who uplift and support you. That doesn't mean financially necessarily, but it can, but support your spiritual and emotional growth, and do the things that you need to do in order to be your own healthy, happy person, not someone else's.
Yeah. I'm so glad because you stole the question. I was like, how does one start journaling? And because you were following, I mean, we were on the same page. Like,
of course,
start with the 5 W's, like 5 W's, and to yourself.
Well, sometimes I've had people ask me that. I don't know what to write, and I said, well, then write that on the page. I don't know what to write, and then and then be curious. Why don't I know what to write?
We have a question from Lorna here. The question you ask on your posts, such as the ones you just mentioned. Oh, if there was I love this one. If there was a box of everything you'd lost, what would you look for first? Are so simple and so profound, inviting into a depth of real introspection and honesty. Thank you. Yes, Lorna. Yes. And I watch I try to watch all of my friends' stuff, but I think this is the one where I commented. If I could, like, if I wanted something I lost, opportunity. And I watched everybody, like, if I had opportunity to talk to my mom who passed away or my grandfather or whatever, and I was like, no, I want to find all those opportunities that because of where I was living mentally, I thought I didn't deserve them. I thought those are not for me. Those are for other people who have great lives. People who have, and I was 17. Like, who has their life together at 17? But now I wish I could go back. I mean, mind you guys, I have a great life. I do have a great life. Sometimes cash is a little sparse. Sometimes I don't feel my best. And sometimes the head is in the way. But overall, I have a great life. And I don't know that those opportunities would have made, they would have made a difference. I don't know that I don't need them. But I would like to go back and find out what would happen.
Of course. And who knows, would you be that introspective if you had the opportunities that you were referring to? You don't know.
I would be this adorable, but would I be this insightful?
Of course you would be adorable.
Who knew? I do have a comment, and thank you, Lorna, by the way, for sticking through the show and asking and commenting. This is really, thank you for joining us. I hope you join us for other episodes. The thing I want to make sure that I bring up before we end, because we have about 10 minutes. People, when we start journaling, because I'm a big panicker of journaling, because I can start writing and I go deep. I'm like a deep sea diver, and I want to go down and find the Titanic. And but yet we are so afraid of going into that timeline. Yet we can't bring anything back with us. Like there's going into the timeline, there's nothing to hurt us there anymore because it's not real. It's
That's
just
right.
the memory of. In your professional opinion, in your expertise, why are we so afraid of going back in time and seeing our evolution or our growth?
Well, because most of the time we don't look at it that way. We don't look at it as that's gonna show me my evolution. We don't look at it that way. We see it as I'm going to re-traumatize myself rather than, knowing the event and then the story. Okay. So you want to go back and you want to see what happened to you when you already know what happened to you. So the thing is too, and this is the key, that the paper is the only place that you can tell the truth and nobody can say you're not telling the truth, because it's your journal, your private message to yourself. And a lot of times people, when they see the truth, that they've wrapped a story about something that maybe wasn't real, maybe didn't happen that way, then they will see that, oh, maybe I made up some other stuff too. And then they get, so it's a bit of guilt, it's a bit of sadness, a bit of overwhelm. If you just take one event, and that's one thing that people try to do, they want to go into this whole thing when all they need to do is take one event at a time, do the work around it, uncover the actual event, and take the story away and say, now, what would it have been like if I had acted on it from the place I am right now? What story would I have wrapped around it if I were acting from the place I am right now? And they will see that it's totally different. But oftentimes they don't understand that they don't have to take my whole life is a horror story, right? They want to do too much at one time. Little bite-sized pieces can go a long way. I'll tell you what, in a week of journaling, little bite-sized pieces, you can have 10 years of therapy. If you go deep and you tell yourself the truth. But you're right, you do. You want to go down and find the Titanic, right? And you can always keep saying why, and the reality is there isn't always an answer.
And I'm going to tell folks, if you're listening and you practice a little bit about what we're talking about, and you are doing therapy, because I do therapy once a week, if you journal a little bit, if you just, like, something pops in your head about your past and you're like, why did it happen? And you journal about it. It is a great addition. It's a great tool for therapy, because now when you go into therapy, you go, hey, I wrote about this. Can we dissect it a little bit? Can we break it down? And then you realize that sometimes it doesn't have that much hold on you anymore. You're giving it some kind of magical power.
Right.
And the other thing, shoot, it just escaped my mind really quick. The other thing too is that if you journal and you go back into the timeline, you can stop being so evil to yourself about it. You can be so mad, because I had the issue of going back and judging for everybody. I first tried drugs when I was 20. I was 20 years old the first time I ever did drugs. And I used to go back and blame 20-year-old me for the 16 years of drugs that I did, my career in drugs. And I would blame him for everything. And the poor 20-year-old kid was like, I was under peer pressure. I was just doing, and I was like, but you should have known better. No, he didn't know any better. He was 20 years old, 55-year-old.
Look who I blamed. Look who I blamed.
Yes.
She's 5 years old, and I blamed her for not getting out of that situation. I actually got that picture and tore it up as a matter of anger that she didn't. And I thought to myself later, I said, she was 5. What could she have done? Who could she have told? Where could she have gone? There was nobody. And so I took those pieces and I glued them back together, and there she is. That's my 5-year-old self.
So for anybody out there, when you are looking back and go, I was so stupid, I was so dumb, no, you were that age. You were that age with that amount of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
The knowledge you have now was not in you at 15, 20, 5. Like it wasn't there. But now you can go back and go, oh my God, it wasn't my fault. Like,
no, it wasn't.
I was a product of the situation. Maya
Angelou has a beautiful quote that I love, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember it exactly, but she said, forgive yourself now for the things you didn't know when you didn't know them. You didn't know at 5 years old. You didn't know at 20 years old. So why keep pounding on yourself, which is what we do. We just like, But if you understand that you didn't know better, if you had known better, you would have done better, right? So give yourself some slack. Understand that that's a story that you wrap this around. You're a bad person because you did drugs. You're horrible, right? You were 16. You were 20. You're not. That story is I did drugs, period. There's no judgment there. There's no reprimand. There's just I did drugs. And I got through it. I am now recovered, right? So there's no in between judgment of how bad you were for doing it. There's no judgment about all the other stuff. It's just I did this and now I'm this. Whole different thing. Whole different period.
I tell you folks, if you do not feel like you just had an hour of therapy after this session, you go back and rewatch this episode because we're coming on the hour. And I want to make sure folks know how to reach you. We are showing again. If you want to message her, you can go to her Instagram. And here it is down there. Go check it out. How else can folks reach out to you?
Well, I did put them in your Facebook page underneath the announcement that I was going to be on. I put all those links in there. My website is deJoly.her-space.com. And that will take you to my all the other coaching things that I do, plus my retreat. It'll take you to my membership. And then I have a 4-day free 4-day reflection guide that I'd like for everybody to download if they can. It's on Instagram. You can look at my bio and you'll find it there. But look at it and see if those 4 days of reflection help you. I'm also, like I said, I'm on all the Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And I'm also going to have that retreat in the fall. So there are 2 openings left. I keep it small, so it's intimate enough that you get some time with me, you get some time by yourself, and you bond with other women. And I love it. It's one thing that I really love about what I do, and that is a 3-day Friday after 1 and then all the way till Sunday. So it's a really nice time together at the retreat, and you'll find it on my website. So you can also from there, yes, you got it. You can DM me, find me there. My what do you call it? Gmail account is deJoly@gmail.com. That's my business account.
Here I have the email, so let me show them the email. Okay. There is no excuse to not contact her. Now let's clarify one thing though, that you work with women. That is your demographic, correct?
I work with women. I have worked with men before, and I am open to working with men. No, it's not Life is a Onesie. It's my name, deJoly LaBrier at gmail.com. That's with you and me. Take that off of there.
Oh,
But that
that
is,
was
but
nice.
look, it's Life as a Onesie, which implies that I am one now.
Oh, sorry. Okay, that's not the one.
No.
Okay, I'll delete that one.
deJoly LaBrier at gmail.com.
All right, well, just follow her on the ones that I put up, and
You'll find me. You'll find me, and you can DM me and tell me that you heard about me on Daniel's podcast. Put it together.
Plus, the name is very special. You won't find another deJoly.
No, you won't.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and helping me relaunch my live stream. Will you come back?
I absolutely will. I love it.
I feel like this wasn't even the tip of the iceberg. This like we just landed on the iceberg, and
Yes.
we're scoping the land. If you're watching this live, or if you're watching this on replay, is there a particular thing in your life that you would like to talk about? Send me a message. Hit me up. Send us a comment, and maybe we can make a whole episode out of that. If you are interested in connecting with deJoly and her coaching, her retreats, her workbook, or maybe you'd like for her to come and speak at your event, reach out to her. She is available. She will come out to you. If you need an adorable Mexican to come with her, hello, like we're all here. You get a 2 for 1. I work for cheap. Get me some tacos. Thanks, deJoly and Daniel. I'm so grateful that I could join. Yes, thank you so much for being here, Lorna.
Thank you, Lorna.
And,
thank you.
We'll keep you informed on follow-up episodes. For those of you out there, yes, follow me again, please. I'm back. Have a different job. I do different things, so it may not be every Saturday, but I will keep y'all informed of the Saturdays that we do have shows. Please follow me on all of my other projects. I will bring you more information on Chicky Charity, the nonprofit that I work with now, and continue to work with HIV. I'm doing medical comedy now, so we'll bring all that over. For now, I want to thank all of you for watching. Thank you for coming back and following me. deJoly, thank you so much, sweetheart. You know I love you, and I
love you too.
We could go for another hour if possible.
Yes, and then have coffee and then come back for another hour.
And yes, we're pumped. So everybody out there, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're watching us on replay, leave a comment, ask a question. I'll make sure that I'll get it to deJoly. But for now, I want to thank all of you for watching. And this is Daniel G. Garza saying, hey, put it together. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.